I'm going to explain you the topic chemical energetics, which is also known as energy from chemicals. It's a very small topic and basically very few concepts or the learning objectives are there. So as we will move ahead, we'll get to know about the different aspects. But let me give you the introduction of the chemical energetics. Basically, any any chemical reaction, whichever the chemical reaction is taking place, either it can be your ionic reaction or it can be a reaction involving your covalent compounds, right? So आपका ionic compounds related reaction हो या covalent compound related reaction हो, तो basically in both these cases the bonds are being made and the new bonds are being formed. So basically whatever the bonds there are, one bond, the one kind of a bond are actually being transformed into a new bond. So there are the new bonds being formed after breaking down the old bonds. So basically the bond energy is a kind of an energy which is there between the two components, between the two elements, right? तो उस बॉन्ड एनर्जीज की जो वेरिएशंस हैं बॉन्ड ब्रेकिंग के अंदर और बॉन्ड फॉर्मेशन एट द प्रोडक्ट साइड, दैट either releases out energy or it's taken energy. तो वो जो डिफरेंस है, जो relative difference of energy with respect to reactants and product, that is basically is shown in the form of heat. तो वो chemical energetics में हम उन reactions को कहते हैं exothermic reactions, or they are said to be the endothermic reactions. Exothermic reactions are the reactions which liberate heat energy, and the endothermic reactions are those which take in heat energy. So all the chemical reactions, because they involve different type of bonded compounds, तो वहां पर bonds break हो रहे हैं और new bonds form हो रहे हैं. तो जितने भी आपके chemical, all the chemical reactions will be either exothermic in nature or they will be endothermic in nature. So this is what we are going to study in this class, in this session, that why reactions are exothermic and why some of the reactions are endothermic. Apart from that, then what are the observations for these exo and endo? How do you get to know that this is an exothermic and this is an endothermic, and some of the common examples of that? So these things we will be covering in this session, okay? So as I've already told you that there are certain reactions which are exothermic in nature and there are some of the reactions which are endothermic in nature. Now proceeding further, let's go further, and now we will be finding out, we'll see the examples of the exothermic reaction. So some common example which are of exothermic reactions are, we can see them here, that the combustion reaction, wherever a burning of the fuel is taking place. So the combustion reaction, when the petrol in the car engine is being burned, or the domestic at home, we are lighting our gas burners, or any kind of a fuel is being burned, or even the food which we are taking in our body, that's a fuel for us. So burning of the food stuff within the body at the cellular level is again a combustion reaction, and it's an exothermic reaction. Then second type of reactions are oxidation reactions. So all the type of oxidation reactions are considered to be exothermic. Third is your neutralization reactions. Now, neutralization reactions are those reactions which are acid and bases reaction or acid and alkali reaction, right? The fourth category is a rusting. Though the rusting is extremely slow reaction, but definitely it's an exothermic. It will be liberating certain amount of energy. And fifth is, these are some of them. There are plenty of other exothermic reactions as well. Now, the fifth one is self-heating cans of the food and the drinks, such as the coffee and hot chocolate, which you get from the market, that they have certain chemicals at the base of those containers. So when you shake them, so basically that the chemicals at the base of the container, they basically combine together, they start reacting and they produce large amount of heat. And that heat which has been produced help in heating the can, and eventually it heats up the food in it or a drink in it. So that is a real life application which we have seen, right? So apart from that, now there are many more. Next, coming to the examples of the endothermic reactions. Now, the example of endothermic reactions are those examples which takes in heat energy. They takes in heat energy. Now, that energy can be, because that energy can be in the form of electrical energy, it can be in the form of sunlight, it can be in the form of heat energy taken in. Any kind of energy which is taken in during a chemical reaction is actually your endothermic reaction. Now, some of the very common examples of endothermic reactions is electrolysis. Actually use electrical energy for the decomposition of the compounds. The second is the thermal decomposition, as the word itself saying thermal. So you're using the heat to decompose any chemical compound. Let's say calcium carbonate, it decomposes to form calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. So such reactions are basically decomposition, where a big major compound or a substance is breaking down to simpler. So there the heat energy is taken in and to simplify into simple substances. Then the third one is photosynthesis. Now, in the photosynthesis and photography, both these are photochemicals reactions where the sunlight is being used in the reaction. And the fifth one is a real life example where you use the cold packs. Now, these cold packs which are being used for the sports injury, there the endothermic reaction take place, where the heat again is being given away because of some certain chemical reaction. Where the heat, because of the chemical reaction, the heat has been given, and that heat is used by the sportsman for the sports injury in the form of a cold pack. So that is a very important and crucial example. You must have witnessed it in day-to-day life. Then we move on to the learning object, where they ask, the examiner often asks us to, how do we get to know that these reactions are exothermic or this reaction is an endothermic? So in order to understand the reaction is exo or endo, we have to look for certain observations. Now, those observations are that whatever the reaction is taking place, whether it's taking place in a beaker or in any other reaction flask, because exothermic reactions are the ones where the heat is given. So that given heat is given to the surrounding. Now, that surrounding can be air, or it can be the container. The container, that means I'm here using the flask. So flask is the container, or it goes to the thermometer if it is fitted to the setup. So the thermometer can also record. So that's because of the air or the chemical itself that absorb, that show that it's being heated because of the heat has been given out. So these are certain observations which we see, that the surroundings, the air surrounding, the container wall, or the chemical itself, they get heated up. So these are certain observations which we see when we have the exothermic reactions. Now, coming further, and let's see the observations seen for the endothermic reaction. Now, because the endothermic reactions are the reactions which take in heat, okay? So in this form, in this reaction, because they're taking in heat, right? So what happens here, the surroundings, because the heat is being taken from there, so the surrounding gets cooler. So that surrounding is again the air. So air around the flask where the reaction is taking place, that gets cooler. Or the thermometer, if it is fitted into the setup, so the thermometer shows a drop in the temperature. And same goes the liquid or the reaction mixture, that also shows the drop in the temperature. So these are certain observations we can generally, a layman can see that this reaction is showing these observations. So it's exo or it's an endo. Now, moving ahead. Now we can understand a chemical reaction to be an exo or to be an endo on the basis of the reaction pathway diagrams. Now, when we talk about the reaction pathway diagrams, then these reaction pathway diagrams are actually they're also said to be your energy profile diagrams. Right? So these reaction pathway diagrams are basically the graphical representation of the relative energies of the reactant and product which are being used in the chemical reaction. So this is a graphical representation. Here we can see that this is the level at which the reactants are there, and this is the level at which the products are there. So graphically, they're showing the different energy levels of the reactants, right? Apart from this, then in this particular graphical representation, which are generally known as reaction pathway diagrams, they also show you the x-axis shows you the progress in the reaction, and this is in the terms of minutes or whatever, the seconds or whatever. So that is what you have in the energy profile diagram. So energy profile diagram give you a clear-cut idea of the relative energies of the reactant and the product, and the difference in the height between the energy of the reactant and product is actually that indicates the overall energy change. So this overall energy change is basically denoted by delta H, which is known as enthalpy change. It's known as enthalpy change. This enthalpy change is depicted by, it's shown by the arrow in the diagram. Now, one more thing, these diagrams, which are your reaction pathways, are normally the sketches, right? These are the sketches, but they can also be scaled if the data is provided to us. Now, the arrow on the diagram, this arrow, because this is actually a depiction of an exothermic reaction, the reaction pathway for an exothermic reaction, and this is a graphical representation for an endothermic. Now we can see that the arrow is actually denoting the delta H value. Because it's an exothermic, so the arrow is going downwards. That's showing that the heat is given out to the surrounding. Whereas in an endo, because the heat is taken in, so we see the upward arrow there, which is depicting that the product have a higher, this level is actually the product's level. The product relative energy is higher than that of the reactant. So the heat energy is taken in, and that is shown by delta H or by the arrow. So this is this kind of reactions we have for the endothermic reactions. Now, I'll be showing you the reaction pathway diagrams for the both exothermic and endothermic, and we'll make a comparison, because often in the past papers, we will see that there comes a 3-mark question where the examiner asks you, he tells you that this reaction is exo or it's an endo, and he asks you to draw the energy profile diagram. Or he just give you the equation, and with the equation there's certain information which lets you know that this is an exothermic or endothermic, and again you have to draw the energy profile diagram. Now this reaction pathway is shown for an exothermic reaction. All right, this is an exothermic reaction, so this pathway is shown for an exothermic reaction. Now we can see that the relative levels of the energy of the reactant and product. So this is the level of the reactant, and this is the level of the product. So the reactant have a higher level and the product has a lower level. So the reactant, they have an extra energy in them, right, as compared to the product's energy. So what is happening, whatever the extra energy, the reactants, when they have to transform into the product, the extra energy which is there, that is actually released out. So if the energy is released out, then that is an indication that this reaction is an exothermic. So in exothermic reaction, the arrow is downwards. It's pointing downward, showing that the system has lost the energy. Whereas moving ahead, when you move on to an endothermic reactions, so endothermic reactions, what happens? The reactant level, this is the reactant level, it is lower than the product level. So basically, in order to convert back into the product, they have to have certain amount of energy. Then only they can convert into product, because the product, they have the higher energy. So here the energy is being absorbed. And because energy is being absorbed, so we show it with an arrow which is pointing upward. So that is showing that the system is actually gaining energy, because the reactant have to reach up to the energy of the product before they transforms into the product. So this kind of an energy profile diagram is for the endothermic reaction. Moving ahead. Now, these are the comparative energy profile diagrams for the two. So we need to understand very clearly while drawing the energy profile diagrams, because as I told you, in the exams, you get a 3-mark question where the examiner, by giving you certain indication in the question, he asks you to draw the exothermic or the endothermic reaction, and they are the 3 marks question. So if they ask you to draw the exothermic reaction, then remember, exothermic means that the energy is given out. So here the product is below the reactant. You can see, we can easily make it out, the product is below than the reactant. And that is the reason the reactant, they have a higher energy. So in order to match the energy of the product, or in order to form the product, the extra energy has to be given down to the surrounding. And that is what you show by a downward arrow. So in a 3-mark question, what you are supposed to do is you have to label the axis, number one. So y-axis, you always have to show the relative energies of the reactant and product. And on the x-axis, you always have to show the progress of reaction. That's more or less like time. Now, after that, you have to show the relative levels, energy level of the reactant and product. Then the next mark is for the energy which is being released or absorbed. Because this is an exothermic, so energy is released, so you will be showing it by a downward arrow. Okay, there's one more thing, that's activation. On the next slide, I'll be talking about that activation energy. Okay. Then when I have to draw for an endothermic, I know that the energy of the reactant is lower. This is reactant and this is product. It's lower than the product. So that is the reason, in order to form the product, it need to acquire certain energy. So the energy is absorbed from the surrounding in order to match the energy of the product, right? So this is how I have to draw my energy profile diagrams, where I have to label the axis X and Y. I have to show the relative energy level of the reactant and product, because energy has to taken in. So from the reactant, always remember one thing. We need to remember one thing, that whenever we have to draw the enthalpy change, that's delta H, it always have to be from the reactant level, right? From the reactant level to the product level. Whether the reactant level is low than the product level, then the arrow of the delta H or enthalpy change is going to go up, right? Or if the reactant is above than the product, then the enthalpy change has to go downwards, starting from the reactant level. So the delta H arrow always have to start from the reactant level up to the product. So basically, it's a change in energy. It's a change in heat energy of the reactant and the product, the relative energy of the reactant and product. So the arrow has to start from the reactant and it has to reach up till the product. So many a times the students, they don't know how much big we have to make an arrow. So remember this, these are the sketches, right? These are not drawn up. These are not the scale figures or the graphs. So wherever we draw the reactant level and the product level, so the arrow has to be between them, whether the reactant is lower at the lower as compared to the product, or it's above the product. So it always has to start from the reactant level up till to the product level. So that is something very important we need to understand. Moving on to another terminology, I told you that the examiner, they ask about the activation energy. What is an activation energy? So remember, the activation energy is the energy which is needed by the reactant in order to transform into the product. Now, for example, we know that the combustion reactions are highly exothermic, right? We know that the combustion is always in the presence of an oxygen. It's a burning in the presence of oxygen. We have a petrol in the car engines and we have oxygen in the air, but both of them don't combine unless you give them the spark or you turn on your ignition. The reason is that spark is basically the activation energy, right? So every reaction, whether it's an exothermic reaction or it's an endothermic reaction, that spark, that little amount of activation energy is essential for the reactant to convert into the product, right? So because the reactants, they have certain bonds present in them. So you require, even though the reaction is exothermic, so but the reaction need to be started off, then it is going to liberate out energy during the process, and that energy can be further utilized to break up, or that will be utilized by the reactant for the further reaction. But initially, there a starter or the ignition has to be there. So activation energy is actually the energy which is needed by the reactant, the minimum amount of energy which is needed by the reactant so that they collide effectively, okay, with the right direction of collision with the effective energy, so that the bonds in the reactant, they break down. Now, when the bonds in the reactant will break down, then only they will be converting into the product. So we always mark the activation energy starting from the reactant. So we always mark from the reactant to the hump. This is the hump. So this amount of activation energy, this amount of energy is known as activation energy, right? So this is the case of an exothermic where the reactant is above the product, then relative energy is more. Now, similarly, let me show you in the case of an endothermic reaction. Now, when I talk about the endothermic reaction, so this is the case where I have an endothermic, okay? This is basically your endothermic reaction. Now, in this particular case, this is your reactant level, right? This is the reactant level, and this is basically your hump, right? So from the reactant level up till the hump, beginning from the reactant level up till the hump, this is basically going to be your activation energy. So we need to understand that when we talk about the enthalpy change, so the enthalpy change is always starting from the reactant and it leads to where the product is. So wherever the product is, the arrow will go. Whether the product is down or the product is above, that the enthalpy change will be the difference of the relative energies of the reactant and product. And it always starts from the reactant. When we talk about the activation energy is the amount of energy needed by the reactant. So that arrow of activation energy always start from the reactant level up till the hump. Okay. And this energy it required to break the reactant bond so that they can transform into the products. Now, after this, this first part of this enthalpy chain is about to end. So here I am going to, this is going to tell you some certain amount of tips, exam tips. Now, it's easier for if you remember this particular mnemonic, exothermic, it starts with EX. So exothermic reactions, there the heat exists, the system. So EX and EX will remember. So we know that exothermic reactions are those where the heat exits out. All right. Whereas the endothermic reactions are those reactions where it enters the system. And exothermic reactions, there the enthalpy change is always denoted by a negative value, and the unit is going to be kilojoules per mole. Whatever the value is, but the negative sign is there, that is again an indication that the reaction is an exothermic. Whereas for an endothermic, the enthalpy change is always depicted by a positive value and unit is going to be kilojoules per mole. So this is an examiner tip that if you have to remember, if something is confusing you between exothermic type of reaction and endothermic, so remember that the energy where it exists out from the reaction, it's given out, it's exothermic. Where it enters into the system, that's basically endothermic. Then another examination tip is that you get the kind of questions where they ask you to draw the reaction pathways or the energy diagrams. Those questions are 3-mark questions, and these things they ask you to draw. So they ask you to draw the reactants and the products. So you should be knowing the exact level. For an exothermic reactions, the reactant level has to be above and the product level has to down. That is the reason the extra energy, it exits out, right? And it is denoted by negative sign. When you talk about for an endothermic, because it's taken in heat, so the reactant level is always down there below, whereas the product level is higher. That's why in order to match the energy level, it always takes in heat energy. Then apart from that, this is how we show the delta H, the enthalpy change, and then the activation energy, which I've talked about in the previous slides or previously explained. So here we have, with this, I end up this video. And the second part of this lesson, I'll be talking about the bond energies and how bond energies can decide whether the reaction is an exothermic or it's an endothermic.